history.
You look around in this room. Don't give me this nonsense that Americans are giving up. That is not true.
Turning Point USA, we say that chapters change the world. We are Americans, and we are going to win.
Welcome to CLS 2023, baby!
Who's ready to party like it's 1776?
600 of the best chapter leaders in the best movement in the world, Turning Point USA.
All of you are here because you are in a chapter, you're the leaders of a chapter, you're looking to start a chapter.
You took your college and high school years, and you decided to stand for truth, to save the greatest nation ever to exist in the history of the world.
Remind yourselves that you all have the capability to grow your chapters to unimaginable heights.
So they can network, get the resources they need, learn how to be effective activists on campus.
These will be your guide to each week to help you table and host events.
Events like this, I hope that they motivate you so that when you go home, you can have events of your own.
You want every other group on campus to look at your chapter and say, how are they doing that?
What we're doing at Turning Point USA, we say that chapters change the world.
Chapters change the world.
Chapters change the world, and we believe that.
You're only a loser if you accept losing. Winners never quit, and quitters never win.
You're fighting for things that will honestly decide whether or not this civilization continues. And it all happens in the high schools and the college campuses. You are the left's worst nightmare.
You must pursue the truth every single time you get the chance. It's absolutely necessary not just that you speak the truth, but that you love the truth.
Right now in America, especially the young people, have no idea what it means to be oppressed.
When the bad guys surround you on campus, and call you names, and try to cancel you, and try to kick you off campus, we will have your back 100%. That's what we do at Turning Point USA.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Wow, there's a lot of you. Thank you for coming. My name is Lacey Huffstetler. I'm the president of our chapter. Thank you. Our chapter here at Arizona State has been absolutely blown away by the support that we have received from the community in regard to this event. So thank you for being here. So many people have been so kind and helpful in the process of getting this event put together, so I have some thanks I'd like to say. First, we'd like to thank ASU PD and other law enforcement. We'd like to thank them not only for their help today, working hard to keep us safe, but also for their diligence and hard work every day, putting their lives on the line for us. I could not continue without giving a few more people who've been instrumental to our club's success some thanks. So thank you to our field representative, Amber Kleinka, as well as the other TPUSA staff who have helped us with this event. You all have been there. Oh, okay. You've all been there for us week in and week out. You've been so supportive of our chapter and have helped us to grow with what we are doing today and willing to work with us in our ambitious goals. And most of all, thank you to Turning Point USA for supporting our chapter and giving us resources and training to pull off an event of this size. Now, if you are interested in starting a chapter, please check out the TPUSA table at this event or go to tpusa.com/getinvolved. If you want to be up here, it's possible. Just got to start your own chapter. We would love to help you get plugged in. Finally, we encourage everyone here to attend one of our biggest events of the year, America Fest, here in Phoenix, Arizona this December. This is an event you won't want to miss. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will get started in a moment. And also, go Devils! Woo!
Please welcome to the stage, Austin Smith.
What's up, everybody? How we feeling tonight? Do we have fans of the First Amendment in this room? What about the Second Amendment? The Fourth Amendment? How about the whole Bill of Rights? Did we like it? Well, I'm happy you're here. My name's Austin Smith. I'm the state representative in Legislative District 29, and I am a proud Turning Point USA alumni. A few ground rules for today, okay? There will be no safe spaces. There will be no trigger warnings. There will be no thought police. There will be no censored police. There will be no fascist thought here. Only free speech tonight, right? In the Arizona House of Representatives, I serve on the ad hoc committee for freedom of expression at Arizona's public universities with the great Senator Anthony Kern right there. Stand up, Senator Kern. We're both in the Freedom Caucus fighting every day to protect free speech, freedom of association, freedom of expression on Arizona's public university, because those rights are granted to you by God, not the government, and not Michael Crow here at Arizona State University. So I gotta tell you guys something. A couple of months ago, we had a committee at the legislature to discuss what happened here with Charlie and Dennis this last semester. How many of you tried to go to that or did go to that event last time with Charlie and Prager? Okay, good, good. I imagine some of you might have been threatened or bullied or harassed by your professors, by other faculty members, by other students, that if you go that you're a fascist, that you're a hate person. I'm here to tell you that's bullcrap, and that ends today in the state of Arizona. I promise you that. Myself, Senator Anthony Kern, Representatives Beverly Pingarelli, and the entire Arizona Freedom Caucus are going to spend all next session holding these faculty fascist members to task if they're going to threaten, harass, or try to suspend all of your free speech on these college campuses. I promise you that next January. This event is about you guys tonight. It's about the fight for the principles that have made America such an exceptional country, like the First Amendment. And the next two people that I'm going to bring out here, I've gotten to know one quite well and one I just met today. Ann Atkinson has been in the fight for free speech since her termination here at Arizona State. Mr. Tom Lewis has been an exceptional leader when it comes to developing the next generation of Americans. He's here with us tonight, so please help me welcome Ann Atkinson and Mr. Tom Lewis.
Please give a warm welcome to Ann Atkinson. Now, welcoming to the stage, Tom Lewis.
Well, we've got two very exceptional people here with us tonight, Ann and Tom Lewis. So we've got quite a story here, and I want to kind of ask you, Ann, tell us your story a little bit. Some people may not know about it, but I think a vast majority do. How great is Ann Atkinson, by the way?
Well, I am Ann Atkinson, the former executive director of the former Lewis Center here at ASU's Barrett Honors College, and I had the idea to host an event called Health, Wealth, and Happiness, which was 1.0, and as a result of simply bringing in speech that the arbiters of speech here at ASU, which is a mob of faculty, decided they did not like. The Lewis Center was dismantled. I was fired. Lynn Blake, the director at Gamage, was fired. And the students lost something that was really special and precious to them here.
So, Tom Lewis here. Tom, you have been such an impactful leader to public universities across the country, investing in the next generation of Americans. So, Tom, can you just tell us about, tell us your story a little bit and why you made the decision you recently did here at Arizona State?
Yeah, we've been donating money to public universities for 25 years, my wife and I, and we started our foundation in 2000. And we used to have a scholarship program that some of you in this room might have been a part of, but we gave, 20 scholarships a year for about 15 years. So my wife and I had a lot of fun sending kids to college, because that college for me was the best time of my life. And so I wanted more people to share that. And so I just loved colleges, and I loved where I went to college, and I loved ASU because I lived here, and I loved where I got my MBA. So I'm just a big fan of colleges. And so for 20 years, we gave a lot of money to 3 public universities, but didn't really realize what was happening to them. And I think it really maybe started 10 years ago, but it was just a steady creep, like some kind of cancer that is growing in your body, and pretty soon, you're in big trouble. And I think that's what's happened to most public universities in America. ASU is not that different than the other 2 that I support, and so it's really something that is going to take a big effort on everybody's part. Donors like me, legislators like you,
Smith,
like Austin, leaders like Ann, and students like you, to really rise up and remember that this is our country. And we're about to see Dennis Prager, who I've loved for 25 years, but he says a lot of beautiful things. But one of them is, what are American values? And we all might have our own answer to that. But he says it's right in your pocket. Pull out a coin, and it says 3 things: in God we trust, liberty, and e pluribus unum. And that's what we're all about. As conservatives, we don't care what color people's skin is. We mix together. We really don't care about that. The left wants to make us all believe that it's all skin color. So we've got a big fight on our hands. So thank you, Austin.
So, Ann, I want to ask you, what's next? What do students and all these conservative, great American patriots out here need to do next to protect, simple things like freedom of expression, association, and speech? What's your advice to them?
Well, speech is not free if the expression of speech that some people do not like is met with condemnation, censorship, chilling, retribution, and job loss. ASU says it's a bastion of free speech. I'm an alumna here. I'm an alumna of Barrett, the Honors College. We can do better. So what we need to do, we need the legislature involved to hold people accountable. The bureaucracy of the public university will not hold itself accountable. What we found in ASU's report responding to your request, the legislature, is that they found no wrongdoings. Now, how many in this room would love if the IRS said we need to audit your taxes to do your own audit? Any hands? I would love that. We need external accountability. 2, speakers need to come to campus that represent all values. We have so many students, and they should be able to explore any ideas they want without fearing retribution. It's even the crazy ideas. Right, left, doesn't matter. If they want to study centipedes dancing in Jamaica, let them do that. Right? All speech should be welcome, and speech is not free if it's met with condemnation and retaliation and job loss here. Finally, we all need to speak up. Again, ASU will not hold itself accountable. They will have findings of no wrongdoings. You need to speak out, share the story, tell people what's happening here. If you want to know all the details, there are 100 articles and all sorts of different media posts online. You can learn more about the story. Share it and speak loudly, and let's make some real change.
So Tom, you mentioned earlier, your wife and you have been generous to these universities to really impact, phenomenal leaders. That's why this whole thing is about health, wealth, and happiness. You did it with your own center named after you. What words of advice or wisdom would you get to some of these young people who someday could see themselves in your shoes, contributing, giving back to the community and the country that, developed and made you?
Well, we're shifting right now from public universities to Christian high schools, and that's what the money moves to follow the performance, really, and so that's what they teach you in college, and so that's what donors do, and so I think that's happening, and but I also think that I want to say that the left is using the LGBT issue as kind of a wedge, because when Dennis and Charlie came to speak on 1.0, they were calling them haters and homophobes and nasty names like that, really because they're Christians. And if you're a Christian, you believe that there's basically two sexes, but there's always a dusk and a dawn between night and day, so nobody's really trying to say that they're not, human beings, but generally speaking, sex is binary. Okay, but they're trying to use that as a wedge to turn you into a homophobe and a hater, and we're not haters, at all. So I think that's just a point that I wanted to make. But no, as donors, we will move away from public universities and into other places, and hopefully thousands of other donors will do that same thing until the Michael Crows of the world begin to change their tune and stop backing the faculty over the students.
Fox Garden and Hen House. Ann Atkinson and Mr. Tom Lewis, aren't they phenomenal? Thank you guys both for it.
Turning Point USA proudly presents Health, Wealth, and Happiness 2.0.
You cannot be happy if you are not grateful. The single greatest need that the human being has is for meaning.
If you are not where you want to be, that should actually be really empowering. Maybe you can work harder, wake up earlier, stop drinking, stop doing hookup culture, stop spending so much time on your phone. You are to blame for where you are. So decide who you want to be.
Welcome to the stage, Charlie Kirk and Dennis Prager.
Thank you, everybody. Please take a seat. Well, Dennis, welcome back to Arizona State University.
Thank you, thank you. What am I going to say? It was such a warm reception last time. You know, you already started me off. You didn't even ask me anything, and here I am answering you. What happened last time, what 37 professors wrote, was really a microcosm of what is happening in virtually every campus. So let me choose my words carefully. The 37 professors are intellectual lightweights. That was carefully chosen words. And they're cowards. You must understand the reason that they don't want people like me or Charlie or Heather McDonald or Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro, or I could go through so many names, to come to a campus for 90 minutes. They know deep down we will undo what they have indoctrinated for 4 years in 90 minutes. They fear us. We do not fear them. I have gone through this repeatedly. There's no reason you would know this, but I periodically conduct orchestras. I'm very involved in music. And I conducted the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra at the Disney Concert Hall 4 years ago, which was a big honor because I'm not a professional musician. And Santa Monica is as left-wing as you can get in America. And one of the reasons that I accepted the invitation was to show, let's show the world that something can transcend ideological differences. And what better than music, right? So I conducted a Haydn symphony, and by the way, I raised the entire budget of the year for the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra that one night. I didn't take a penny, and yet the mayor, the ex-mayor, members of the Santa Monica City Council said, do not go to Prager's conducting of our orchestra. In other words, it was better to ruin the budget of his own city's orchestra than have people attend a conservative conducting the orchestra. These people only know how to hate. That is all they know. They are intellectually vapid. And I can prove it to you. So this is what I did. Again, 7 people refused to play, 7 members of the orchestra, all of them professors. They refused to play for me when I came to conduct. I'm a hater. I'm all the stuff that the left throws out with no basis whatsoever. And so I actually said, I'll have all 7 of you talk. I will give you an audience of millions of people. Come to my radio show. Tell my audience why you say I am a bigot, why you say I am a hater, a white supremacist, etc. One took me up on the invitation, a professor at UCLA who was a violinist, and he came. And I was as polite as possible. He brought his wife, and he was a sweet fool. And it's very possible to be sweet and a fool. Many fools are sweet. It's just never confuse nice with wisdom. Hopefully one is both, but they're not related. And so I had him on the show. I have invited your despicable professors here who wrote that despicable thing about us to come on my show. I will give them millions of listeners to prove their point, and none of them will show up. Not one. And not one would debate me here at ASU. They won't debate us. They will only smear. These are truly empty, bad people. And you must understand that. That is who teaches most of the time in most colleges at this time. I got it out of my system, and now we can go on.
And it's worth repeating for those of you that might not have followed it as closely. This is the Barrett Honors College, the Honors College on campus here. The number was 3738. And it wasn't that they just signed a letter saying that we don't like Dennis Prager and Charlie Kirk and Robert Kiyosaki. Poor guy, he got looped in with all of our work, right? He's just like, they ought to just add him on. And it wasn't that they weren't saying that we disagree. They were saying they should not be allowed on campus. That you should not be allowed on campus. And so then ASU, the administration and the president come out, and they say, oh, we have no free speech issue here. The event went off just fine. But Dennis, they don't mention that many of those professors were going into their classrooms telling their students not to attend the event. But there's something even deeper. If they are signing an open letter against us coming on campus, what are they teaching every single day? Are they teaching wisdom? Are they teaching gratitude? Are they teaching health, wealth, and happiness? Or ingratitude and rage? Or, but Dennis, what are they teaching? Because you did the research.
That's right. Yeah. Believe it or not.
I'll let you look that. I'll let you.
Yeah, so believe it or not, I was curious. I actually looked up every one of the 37 professors. It was a work of masochism on my part. And I don't have a masochist bone in my body. But let me give you an example of the stuff that these people are so unimpressive, such lost souls. They're so lucky that they make a living at a university. They're lucky. They have nothing to say. They're just lucky. And the proof is they won't debate us. I'll give them 1 million listeners. You give me the 27 who take one of your classes. Give me time to speak in your class. But they know, and I know this, I would change minds in a half hour in any of their classes. I know it for a fact. Because when people hear logic and truth, and all of a sudden a diabolically presented individual doesn't come across as diabolical, a lot of cognitive dissonance takes place. So here's one of the heroes of this group. This is all from ASU.
So, yeah, this is your
material.
Language trigger warning.
So one of those who signed the letter against us is Dagmar Van Engen. Quote, a non-binary individual whose preferred pronoun is they, and whose current project argues that transness is central to queer and feminist science. Dagmar is the author, they is the author of, the only reason I will say the following word is because this is how it appears in the ASU official biography of Dagmar Van Engen. This person is the author of How to Fuck a Kraken. This is the intellectual elevation at an honors college at ASU.
Well, Dennis, as an Arizona taxpayer, I think the Arizona House needs to defund Arizona State University and stop funding all this stuff. We are looking at the legislature, cut all the funding, and boy, you can hear the screaming in the administration office. This racket that you call Arizona State University, it's going to come to an end sooner or later. Fine, you could fund science or technology, but you're not going to fund this crap in this state.
The question is, and I don't have an answer to this, that's why I say it's the question. You who are students here, how many of your fellow students truly believe what the left is saying at these campuses? Do they really believe that men menstruate? I mean this quite sincerely. Do you know I was on Bill Maher's show a few years ago? I could tell you exactly. It was November 2019, so it'll be 4 years in 6 weeks. And it's gone viral, so it's easy to find it on the internet, wherein Bill Maher says about how Donald Trump lies all the time and so on. And I said, well, I must say, it doesn't compare to left-wing lies. And he said, oh, like what? I said, like America is systemically racist. That is a left-wing lie. And so is men menstruate. And he started laughing at me. The entire panel on the stage laughed at me, and the whole audience laughed at me. By the way, just so you'll know, I love it. You have to understand, it's when I know I'm right and people laugh at me, I feel utterly vindicated. The only thing that bothers me is you don't know that the left says men menstruate? And Bill Maher even says, Dennis, where'd you come up with that one? Within 2 years, men menstruate went from a laughed at joke to you must say it or you are a hater.
And to add to that, this is not some fringe academic theory. The current Center for Disease Control guidance on breastfeeding says that men can chest feed if they take lactating drugs, which, by the way, is unbelievably damaging to the baby and could kill the baby and give the baby a heart attack. The Biden administration refers to women as birthing people. This is not, Dennis, this is not just
And
some...
so do many medical, so do many hospitals.
The American Medical Association... But Dennis...
Is that what it was? It was a loose mic? Good girl, thank you. Is your preferred pronoun she? The point Charlie made is very important. The medical, this is the bad news. I'm going to say a very serious thing for a moment. Levity is very important, otherwise we'll go nuts. But this is very serious. I do a podcast with a 23-year-old woman named Julie Hartman. You would all love it, whatever your age. It's I've never done any co-hosting in 40 years of radio. And I'm very open, she's very open, and I pose a question to her periodically, and I go, I don't know who to feel worse for, you or me. And it's a very serious, it's an honest question. I don't know who to feel worse for. On the one hand, you are growing up in an America that is being wrecked. And you don't know the America I grew up in. And of course there were bad aspects to America that I grew up in. Of course there were. Because the human being is a very flawed creature. And since there are bad aspects to humans, societies will have bad aspects. But if you compare America to any other country at the time, rather than to a utopian vision of imagination, this place is the place most of humanity wished to move to, and if they could, would have moved to, because this was the land of opportunity and freedom compared to every other land. 4 million blacks have moved to this country in the last few decades from Africa and the Caribbean. So here's a question to ask. Are they stupid? Why would a black move to a systemically racist country? Are they stupid? Ask every liberal and left. Often they're different, not in this case. Ask every Democrat in your family, and you all have that in your extended family. Ask any of them, are blacks who moved to America stupid? Yes or no? Did any Jews move to Germany in the 1930s? Did one? And East Europe was filled with anti-Semitism. I wrote a book on anti-Semitism. I taught Jewish history at Brooklyn College. I know Jewish history. And let me tell you, no Jews moved to Germany from Eastern Europe because they knew it was systemically anti-Semitic. People don't move to where they're hated. So Africans know it's a lie that America is systemically racist. So anyway, my question that I ask Julie and ask myself, who has it worse? Those of us who knew this free country, this symbol of freedom and grew up in it, or those of you who are living through the systemic lies of our time of men give birth, men menstruate. If you deny that, you're a hater. If you deny that America is systemically racist, you're a hater. If you say, if you are opposed to all black dormitories on college campuses, you're a racist. Do you understand how Orwellian we're getting? If you oppose racial segregation, you are the racist. You know who is for all black dorms and all black graduations? The left and the Ku Klux Klan. They have so much in common with regard to their attitudes toward blacks. They're almost identical. I believe, I would take a lie detector test. I believe every leftist thinks blacks are inferior. Not every liberal, every leftist. I have no doubt in my mind. Their attitude towards blacks is, you can't make it. We will destroy all norms on your behalf. The Oregon Education Department has announced, Oregon Education Department, that the idea that there is one correct answer in mathematics is white supremacy. Now, if that is true, whites are supreme. If they are right, if only whites believe that 2 and 2 is 4 and there is no other possible answer, then whites are presumably superior. So they are acknowledging, they are not acknowledging, because it's not true that whites are superior, but they are claiming whites are superior. Blacks don't think, that's what they're saying in Oregon. Blacks don't believe that there's one right answer in math. Only whites do. And this, so I don't know who has it worse. You, who didn't know the America I was raised, or I, who are watching my country ruined? It's just an interesting question. It's not one that should keep you up at night, but I think about it.
I want to get to some questions, Dennis, because that's the most fun in just a second. But, Dennis, I think it's interesting. I'm 29, and having seen a little bit of America that was a great country, and just we were talking to some college kids, some of you guys today, for, at least an hour and a half. I was saying things have changed so dramatically in the last 5 years. We're living through an active cultural revolution. And whether it be the deterioration of our currency, the fact that our border is wide open, we're teaching our kids to actively hate the country. Dennis, I'll just pose this one question, and we could spend a fair amount of time on this, is why is America committing suicide? It's not happening because of some foreign threat. It's not happening because of an asteroid. We are doing it to ourselves. This is a once great country that is deciding to no longer be great. What's behind that?
Well, I wish you didn't ask, because it's one of the few questions on these matters even I am somewhat baffled by.
I mull over it every
Yes, so let me offer some thoughts rather than some one perfect answer which may not exist. First, there's a great phrase. It's attributed to G.K. Chesterton, the brilliant British writer, late 19th century. But he didn't actually say it. And the only reason I'm mentioning is I never take credit for an idea that isn't my own. And so this is not my line. I wish it were. When people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. Only secular people say men menstruate. Only. Not all people who say it. Not all secular people say it. But the only people who say men menstruate are secular. Religion, the Judeo-Christian religion, any manifestation, Judaism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Mormonism, any manifestation of it, inoculates you against gigantic lies. It just does. Whatever the theological differences among those religions, it's irrelevant compared to the difference between secular and religious. Only secular people say men menstruate. That is a very important point. And in this country, God is dying. It's just a fact. It's the first time in American history fewer than 50% of Americans go to church on Sunday. The first time in American history. And I'm a Jew lamenting this fact. And I go to synagogue every Saturday, just for the record. So that is, without doubt in my mind, one of the reasons. There are three mottos to America. E pluribus unum, from many one, liberty, and in God we trust. In God we trust. All three are dying. Multiculturalism and diversity versus e pluribus unum. Liberty is not a left-wing value, never has been. There is no example of the left being in charge of anything, whether it's a college or a country, and allowing liberty. And in God we trust is, of course, anathema to the left. They are gods, as in the Garden of Eden. That's what the serpent promises Adam and Eve. You'll be gods, and that's what people want to be, gods. And so that is a factor in answering your question. There is another one. How do you explain the suicide I'm answering you with a question, which
It's
is
very Jewish of you.
Very
Dennis.
Jewish.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
gonna
that's
say.
entirely.
Yeah.
That's correct.
See, they're going to call me an anti-Semite for that, Dennis.
They probably will. So, well, I've been called an anti-Semite.
No, that's
so,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, how do you explain how crappy contemporary art and music is? And I know music, as I told you, I conduct orchestras. Why is so much contemporary music since the beginning of the 20th century and art so awful? Because the talentless wanted to make a living. That's it. When I see, and this was very famous actually, in one I think it was the Guggenheim in New York, I believe.
Christ?
Oh no! Oh, that took talent. The man had to urinate onto a crucifix. That was talent compared to this guy who hung a banana on a wall at either the Museum of Contemporary Art or the Guggenheim. And so when I look at that stuff, or even Jackson Pollock, to be honest, and I say, you know, I could do that. If I could do it, it is not great art. I said, no, it is very simple. That is correct. I can't do Michelangelo. I can't do Da Vinci. I can't do Seurat or any of the French Impressionists. I can't do that. That takes talent. These professors are talentless. That is the point. They found a way, like the artists who have no talent, and put up a black canvas and say night over Toronto, which I saw at a Toronto museum. It was a black canvas. That is another aspect here. Those who have nothing original to say, nothing important to say, so that is part of it. And finally, there is the desire to, the belief, the almost religious belief in change. When change is for the good, every normal person is for change. But they are for change because they can't live up to the standards of the past. I'll end with this. A professor at the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League college, at the law school, she wrote a piece saying, you know, the best values are good old-fashioned, middle-class, bourgeois values. Finish high school, get a job, get married, and then have children after you marry. Amy Wax. 250 of her fellow professors demanded that she not be allowed to teach her course at the University of Pennsylvania.
What's hilarious, Dennis, is that they don't actually even live that out. It's a luxury belief that they find objectionable, but they all graduated high school, got their PhDs, raised their kids in a two-parent household, but they think it's terrible to say that.
That's right. No, I'm just saying. So there's no one answer to the suicide question, but I have many formulas of life. One of them is secularism plus affluence equals boredom. It's a terrible combination, secularism and affluence. Who formed the Greens? All the Greens are secular and affluent. Poor people are not green because they want to have cheap energy. Only the rich can say, oh, let's pay a fortune for energy. So the boredom factor should never be denied.
Let's start lining up for some questions, everybody. And if you disagree, please come to the front of the line. Unlike the professors at the Barrett Honors College at ASU, we'll let you speak your mind and tell us why you hate us or why you disagree. Free speech is an American value, and we want to enjoy that. So just start lining up there. Also, I want to make sure I plug the promo code LIVEFREE at tpusa.com for AmericaFest. Finally, let me just say this. This is a predominantly conservative audience, so if and when someone who comes and says something wacky from the left, don't boo them, don't laugh at them, give them the respect that the left never gives us. Okay? Thank you.
Right.
Okay, we're going to stay as long as they let us, and disagreement gets preference. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you so much both for being here. I'm a sophomore here in political science, and I just wanted to ask if you think the public university system is redeemable, just in general.
Well, you could ask if the public school system is redeemable. You don't even need the university, the public university. Schools have been taken over by fools, by people who hate the country, who hate freedom, who hate excellence, who hate Shakespeare, who want to take 5-year-olds to drag queen story hours. I mean, do you understand how sick a human being must be? Sick. This transcends ideological evil. This is sick. To want to take 5-, 6-year-olds to see men in dresses dancing in front of them. By the way, is an interesting issue which drives the left crazy, because you're only allowed to criticize men on the left. Toxic masculinity, patriarchy. But I've said all of my life, men have to battle their natures and women have to battle their natures. But I will admit that it has come as a surprise to me, the utterly disproportionate role women are playing in ruining children in America. It's a fact. It's not. This is not. Unless you believe they're doing a good job, then you would have to say women are doing a disproportionately wonderful thing in telling kids that they are not necessarily a boy or a girl. They will decide what they are. There's no such thing as objective gender. This is overwhelmingly coming from women. All of my life, this is an example. People ask me all the time, "Do you ever change your mind?" You have no idea how often I have, but here's an example. All of my life, I thought that it was innate to women to protect children's innocence. But I've learned left-wing ideology is more powerful than female nature. By the way, I'll give you another proof. The hookup culture. If there was any patriarchal conspiracy, it's the hookup culture. Guys benefit and women don't. Guys can have sex with any number of women and be happy as a clam, on the assumption that clams have sex. But that is very rarely true for a female. But females actually worked against their own nature, which is generally a desire that if there is sex, that it has some degree of emotional commitment to it, some depth to it, and bought the feminist line that you are no different than men in terms of your sexuality. I have come to realize human nature is less powerful than ideology. And women destroying children's innocence and working against their own interests. There are more depressed young women today in the United States than any time since the data on depression have ever been measured. And it's another example of the most guiding principle you should have to understand life. Everything the left touches, it destroys.
They're not redeemable. We should defund ASU, NAU, and University of Arizona and give a refund to the great people of Arizona. Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering, I have a few questions, but I'm just going to go with one. You guys said you weren't homophobes, which, like, if you believe in the Bible, right, Leviticus 20:13 clearly is like, a man shall not lie with a man, right? My question is, like, isn't it kind of cowardice to just be like, I'm not homophobic? Like, my roommate last year is, like, Christian, and he's like, I'm homophobic, but, like, respect him. He says it with his chest, you know? But, like, is it not a little cowardice to say you aren't?
Could you repeat it? Did you hear it all? Okay.
I'll repeat it. He's trying to challenge you on the Torah. He doesn't really know you very well, obviously.
Yes, that's fine.
He's been studying biblical Hebrew since he was an infant, but that's okay. His question is this. He said, aren't you, Charlie and Dennis, a little cowardly because you say you're not homophobic, but you believe in Judeo-Christian values? Why don't you just own the fact you're homophobic?
Right.
That was his question.
It's a perfectly legitimate question, and I'd like to answer you. So I'll give you both a personal and a theological answer. So just last week in Florida, a gay couple with whom my wife and I are extremely close, so close that these two men have asked that my wife and I be their children's, they have two sons, their children's godparents. meaning if they die, we will raise them morally. There may be others who will take care of them day to day, but we will be their moral instructors. Now, it would be odd that they would choose two homophobes, my wife and me, to be the moral guides of their children, and they know that I do not believe in same-sex marriage. And yet they would want me to raise their children. It has nothing to do with homophobia any more than I am anti-single women, because I believe that children should have two parents. I do believe in an ideal that marriage is between a man and a woman. I also recognize that there are men who are not attracted to women, and I don't want them to be alone, and I understand that they will bond with another man. I recognize that fact. I keep my values, and I keep my compassion. The left has lost its values in the name of compassion. So just last week, they said, you know, Dennis, we just want you to know, for financial benefits and other important considerations, we're finally getting married. They have not been married. I didn't even know that. I thought they were, but they're not. And they said to me, we would love you to conduct the marriage, but we know that you don't believe in same-sex marriage, so obviously we're not asking you to do it. Do they think I'm a homophobe because I don't believe in same-sex marriage, because I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman? Only simpletons, I'm not saying you're a simpleton, but only simpletons can say, because you think marriage is between a man and a woman, you're a hater. That is what the left has taught people to think. They don't take the issue. They don't argue issues. They throw out labels. A hater? I love this couple. They love me. And it's not the only gay couple that I'm that close to. By the way, they themselves would acknowledge the ideal is a man and a woman. They can't do it, and I believe that. And I tell right-wingers who think that all homosexuality is a choice, I'm sorry. The first thing a religious person has to do is pursue truth. There are men who cannot be attracted to a woman, end of issue. That's just the way it works. I wish it were not the case, but I don't live in I wish world. I live in the real world. Okay, so I am not an ally of those who say, well, they just chose the gay lifestyle. Under torture, I wouldn't choose the gay lifestyle. There's no way to make this heterosexual not attracted to women. It is not possible. It can't happen. And it can't happen to make them attracted to women. By the way, lesbianism is a much more complex issue, because female sexuality is much more complex than male sexuality. There are some women who truly cannot be attracted to a man, but a lot of lesbians can. That's why you often hear about all of a sudden a woman who in a lesbian relationship and now she fell in love with a man. You never hear of a man who was in a homosexual relationship falling in love with a woman. It doesn't happen. So life is complex. And what the Bible did in Leviticus was to say to a world, I've written 20,000 words on that one verse. And what it did was, huh?
No,
you told her? Is that what you said?
I told the audience that you know this.
Yes, I could tell it to you in Hebrew, but you wouldn't even. I don't know how many would even believe that I knew it. I could make up anything, right? If an audience doesn't know Hebrew. But anyway, I know this stuff pretty well. Here is the interesting thing: virtually every culture in history had no problem with male homosexuality. The Bible came along and said, "Men, we want you to confine your sexual activity to a wife." It changed all of history with that verse. It's not a hate verse. Because men would, like in Greece, rich men had women for babies and boys for pleasure. That was true in Egypt. That was true in China. That was true in every culture that we know of, any literature of the sexual habits of men in those cultures. And along came this book and said, the one place that we want you to have sex is in marriage of a man and a woman. That made Western civilization possible.
Thank you. We'll get to the next one. Thanks so much.
Okay, Charlie, I wanted
Charlie, I wanted to specifically talk to you about immigration. In 2019, during your Culture War tour, you famously said you believed that we should staple green cards to the diplomas of foreigners who have graduated school in our country. More recently, you seem to acknowledge that Great Replacement is not a conspiracy theory, just 2 days ago tweeting, Democrat politicians are replacing American voters with immigrants. Given that your view from 2019 would directly contribute to replacing American voters with immigrants, has your view evolved on this, and if so, what's changed?
Well, yeah, it's definitely improved. I wouldn't say evolved. Yeah, I mean, I said stupid stuff. Good thing you're able to acknowledge that in a free country, right? But yeah, what changed? First of all, I've definitely become more conservative in the last couple of years on a lot of issues. And you might say, Charlie, what changed? When you get married, you get a lot more conservative. When you have a kid, you get radically more conservative. And so that's what's changed. Got married, have a kid, and also, honestly, the lockdowns, when I started to see what was happening to our country. So, yeah, I mean, you could cherry pick a quote from 2019, something I don't believe, don't espouse. Perfectly fair, but not a belief I have anymore. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Testing. Okay, cool. Good evening, Mr. Kirk and Mr. Prager. Allow me to introduce myself real quickly. My name is Cameron Jones. I'm the chairman and co-founder of Young Americans for Freedom at Arizona State University. And allow me to drop the jaws of everyone in this room. I'm also a detransitioner.
Wow. God bless you.
Yeah, that's a very, 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 very long and complicated story, so let's just immediately move past that. I'm also autistic, very clearly disabled, and a bleeding heart American-loving conservative. It was my chapter that set up the 9/11, sorry if I'm getting on a soapbox, but it was my chapter that set up the 9/11 Never Forget project at ASU on 9/11. I also am planning an anti-socialism protest in about, thank you, right around the birthday of Che Guevara. The other thing is...
Question.
Yes?
Ask your question.
Oh, sure, sorry. I just wanted to ask, what can conservatives do on the ground to really further the movement?
Well, you're already doing it. You're getting involved. And, you know, what I think Turning Point USA is doing is the most important work in the country, honestly. We have more high school chapters than college chapters now. And also what we're doing at Turning Point Action, Austin and the team, it's very, very important. The most important thing, though, is don't give an inch to the left, ever. Is do not take their terms, do not apologize to them when they tell you to apologize, do not use their word games, speak your mind always, and never tell a lie. The left wins when they shut us up and they silence us. We have to be more vocal, we have to be more public, we have to be more active with our conservative values. And God bless you. I'm sorry you had to go through that detransition story, but I'm glad that you're fighting strong. You're a hero for that, truly. Dennis, do you have a thought?
Yeah. One of the things that keeps me sane is not a direct response, but it's a response to the transition statement. I will give a direct response, but I do want to say this. One of the things that keeps me sane is the belief that that God judges the world. It was just Yom Kippur 2 days ago, the Day of Judgment. In Jewish belief, every human being is judged, not just Jews. And it is one of my favorite beliefs. In fact, I want PragerU to start a campaign, and if you want to take this, with billboards that said, something to the effect, it's worth remembering, God judges you. Or God doesn't only love you, he judges you.
That's also a Christian belief, just so we're clear.
Yes, no, I agree. So, and the reason I raise that is God will judge every one of these doctors, therapists, and New York Times editorial writers who supports double mastectomies for girls who say they're boys and castration for boys who say they're girls. For years there was a protest against those Muslims, and not all Muslims do this, but millions do, mostly in Africa. Clitoridectomies, the removal of girls' clitorises at, I don't know, age 11 or something around that age. And I have to say, I see no difference between that and what the left advocates be done to boys who say they're girls or girls who say they're boys. These are despicable human beings, and many of them wear white coats as doctors or dress up as therapists, however they dress up these days. And it's worth remembering, these are vicious human beings. They're sick. There's a deep pathology. What can you do? That was the question. The first thing you do is don't despair. They win if you despair. Okay? That's really critical, because we're living in bad times. I mean, that is a fact. We're living in bad times. Where you know how I know? Well, I know so many ways, but I'll give you one little example. My field of study was communism. It's incredible that that's what I studied, because I never ever thought that what I learned would apply to America. It never occurred to me. I was at the Columbia University School of International Affairs, the Russian Institute. I learned Russian. I went to communist countries repeatedly. When I would speak to Soviet citizens in the Soviet Union, they would look around before they talked to me to see, was it seen that they're talking to a Westerner. And then a few years ago, because a lot of people stopped me at airports, all of a sudden I realized, this was when Donald Trump was president, Americans were looking around before they would talk to me and say, I just want you to know I'm a conservative, or I just want you to know I support the president. And I thought, oh my God, that's exactly what I experienced in Moscow under Brezhnev and communism. People looked around to see, would anybody hear what they had to say to me. It's happening in America. It's a bad time, my friends. It is a bad time. There were people, you told me, and so did others, that in fact, I think it was Ann's article in the Wall Street Journal, that students would not come to our event. Ann, is that correct? If they would be on camera. You hear that? United States of America in 2023?
Let me ask, how many students here, if you think you're outspokenly conservative, your professors would grade you negatively? Raise your hand. Yeah, every hand goes up. See that, President Crow? You've created a Stalinist enterprise where you can't be a conservative at Arizona State University without backlash. Thank you. And just a reminder, if you disagree, just let us know. We'll make sure you guys get priority. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Kowalski. Last November, my wife and I immigrated to the United States from what's becoming a communist country of Canada. We participated in the Freedom Convoy, and we got beaten down for it. We lost our jobs, our livelihood. We had to come here. What can we do at ASU and elsewhere in order to give students the tools to not allow what's going on in Canada right now to not happen here, because I'm worried that it's inching away as well?
So the Canadian example is important. This is a oversimplification in my opinion, but Canadians have a reputation for being nice. And if you're nice, evil wins. They will take advantage of you being nice, being tolerant. If you love God, you must hate evil. Psalm 97:10, as Dennis frequently says. We should be actively intolerant of evil. We must be outspoken. We must not roll over. And we sure as heck should not treat the other side like they're good people. These people are rats. They're vermin. They are destroying the greatest nation ever to exist in the history of the world, actively, every single day. They're a parasitic bacterial infection on the constitutional republic that we love. Besides that, no, they're still crummy people. But, yeah, no, and what can we do to wake up students? Events like this. Actively invite disagreement. It strengthens your argument. Dennis, do you have something to add to that, the Canadian example?
Yeah, well, Canada is actually worse than the United States, which is an achievement. it's very sad that I even speak that way. We're the greatest exporter of toxic ideas in the world today. We're also the greatest exporter of anti-toxic ideas. So I want you to understand that. There is no anti-left movement in the world like there is in the United States. Just between our two organizations, TPUSA and PragerU alone, there is no Canadian or European
They would go to
analog.
jail. That's not an exaggeration. Yeah.
Well, in Germany, you're not allowed. You go to jail if you homeschool your children. The Biden administration, which allows millions upon millions of illegal immigrants into the country, is working on deporting a German couple that came here seeking asylum because the German government wants to arrest them for homeschooling their children, which is part of my old doctrine. Germany is always wrong. It's a way of understanding the last 100 years. But you have to fight. You have to fight sophisticatedly. I mean, obviously, TPUSA. I mean, we're kindred spirits. I mean, we love each other personally, and we love each other's organizations, and show people PragerU videos. The number of people whose minds have been changed by our videos is quite large. You should all watch them. You can't master every subject, so we work very hard to make ideas. For example, I mean, we have about 600 5-minute videos. I have personally given about 55, so 1 out of 10, that's all. 9 out of 10 are given by others. And I have a video titled, "Why Don't People Hate Communism as Much as Nazism?" You should watch that video. It's very indicative. Do you know how I knew I wasn't a leftist? After all, I grew up as a Jew in New York. It's on my birth certificate, it says liberal. Sex is changeable in New York, but not political affiliation. And but I knew I despised the left very early because they didn't hate communism. And I feel towards people who don't hate communism exactly as I feel towards people who don't hate Nazism. It means you don't hate evil. There's something wrong with you if you don't hate communism. Communism slaughtered 100 million people in the 20th century. And that's the ones they murdered. What about the relatives of the murdered, the friends of the murdered, the communities of the murdered? And what about the wounded and injured? And what about the tortured? I mean, people don't know evil. I wonder what percentage of ASU students can identify the Gulag Archipelago. Oh, saying Solzhenitsyn would be like
professors
be like saying Leviticus.
Yeah, which is on the Liberty Bell.
Right, but who knows that? But your generation has not been taught about evil. You think America is evil. That's what the left has done. They ignore real evils, and they manufacture minuscule evils. Why are there so many race hoaxes on campuses? Did you ever think about that? I wrote an article. I gave an illustration. 18 race hoaxes on campuses. And why are there so many? Because there's so little racism on campuses. That's why. They have to make it up. Did Jews make up anti-Semitic hoaxes in Nazi Germany? No, they didn't have to because there was so much real stuff. Back to Canada, that they would shut down the bank accounts of the truckers who went on strike because of the vile vaccine mandate that was made there, a vaccine that I never took, incidentally, because I actually studied the issue, that you were forced to take a vaccine. I assume that is true in order to attend classes. Is that true? You didn't have to at ASU?
It was, but not anymore, right?
No, not anymore. I know not anymore. Was it ever true? Never? You know what? I'm happy to hear it, and I will announce it because this is a very rare college that did not require a vaccine in order to attend. The girl that's yes, it's a very big deal. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Good to see you again, Charlie.
It's not good to see me.
I haven't seen you today yet. I had a very
I see.
lovely
I'm
conversation
just
with Charlie.
ribbing you. I'm fine.
Very funny guy. So, my question is just that I want to start off by saying that I love this country. I am so grateful that I was born into the United States of America. That said, however, I recognize, I guess you could say, some problems that the American government has engaged in. So I guess my question is, do you think that it's possible to still be grateful that we were born in the United States of America while also acknowledging harm inflicted upon marginalized communities?
The harm committed upon, I'm sorry, I missed one word. Marginalized communities.
Such as?
Well, I mean, Jim Crow, slavery, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Look, if you care, I'm sorry, Charlie, if you care about truth, which is all everyone should care, the truth is truly the answer to evil. Evil cannot exist in a truth-centered society. So, of course, evil was done in our society. There wasn't a day in my life that I ever thought that was not the case. But as Candace Owens, in her PragerU video on what a history of slavery, a short history of slavery, points out, and as I have pointed out all of my life, every society on earth had slavery. What America was bad in was universal. What America was good in was unique. That's what you have to remember.
I agree with Dennis. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, Charlie. I just had a quick question. Your employees came out. There's a little leftist protest outside. Why did I have to pretend to be a leftist to get brought up here? Why don't you have anybody dissenting from the right? When are we going to have more nationalists? Instead of just engaging with the left, now that the Biden administration has invaded our country, when are we going to build a big tent with nationalists like Jared Taylor and Nick Fuentes?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I don't align with Jew haters. Sorry. Thank you. I'll talk to anybody. You want to tell me why do you hate the Jews, by the way? Like, what do you think of Jewish people?
No, I think they have a disproportionate influence in American politics. However, I do find it interesting that you trot out these far-left
I'll
nitwits.
talk to anybody, but one of the people you mentioned says we should have a holy war against the Jews. Do you believe that?
I believe we need to spread the light
yes
of Christ
or no?
to the entire world.
Do you believe in a holy war against the Jews? Yes or no?
I believe in fighting for Christ. And I believe that Jerusalem should be Christian.
Christ was a Jew.
Christ is king.
I agree Christ is king, but yes or no? This is not a trick question.
Do you
believe in a holy war against the Jews? Yes or no? Not a trick question.
Do you think we should try to convert
Why?
Yes, I try to convert everyone to Christianity. I try to convert Dennis to Christianity. I try to do it every day. It's the Great Commission.
But you know
what, here's what I'm not going to put up with. I'm not going to put up with Jew hatred. In the conservative movement, in America, I'm not going to put up with that in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to put up with it. And I'm not going to put up with it. It's disgusting. It's reprehensible. I'm willing to debate anybody, but the fact that you have to dodge and sneak, I said yes or no, holy war against the Jews, and you won't be able to answer, which I find to be kind of suspicious, to be honest.
Hey, you've come a long way, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Charlie. Hi, Dennis. I'm Nick Jordan. I'm a secondary education major here. And one thing I worry about is if our primary and secondary education systems are salvageable or if we kind of have to start all over.
Do you think that the primary education system is salvageable?
No. Right now, I would not send my children to almost any American school now. I would homeschool my children, or I would send them, as I was sent actually, to a religious Jewish school or a religious Christian school. A lot of Jewish schools are woke. A lot of Christian schools are woke. But if you can find an authentically Jewish or authentically Christian school, or homeschool, or some classical school that just teaches the pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness, but otherwise, I've said all of my life, sending your kid to college is playing Russian roulette with their values. And most parents are prepared to play Russian roulette with their values, with their kids' values. It's very painful because a lot of people feel that they cannot afford to homeschool their children, or they're intimidated by the idea. I can't teach my kid math. By the way, I couldn't teach my kid math. However, there are now so many ways to homeschool your child using the community resources of the homeschooling movement. It is not what people imagine. The parent sits home all day and teaches their kid geometry. That's not what is involved. But the more kids that are removed from schools, it's great to run for school boards. We could dominate every school board in the country, and teachers will still have drag queen story hours. And that is the way. They will still teach kids that you're not necessarily a boy or a girl. They will not teach them. The schools don't teach almost anything of value. I mentioned twice already my involvement in classical music. So I was just reading about how many opera companies are in terrible financial shape. You know what the biggest reason is? There's been no music education in American schools for the last 2 generations because they're too busy teaching drivel, America hatred, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. They don't teach music or art. They don't teach truth, beauty, and goodness. So I will tell you, raise your hand if you were homeschooled. Is anybody here who was homeschooled?
You guys are very blessed, I'll tell you.
So here's an interesting thing. Every so often I get calls from really young people in their teens or even 12. And it is amazing. I guess it's a giveaway because if they weren't being homeschooled, they couldn't call during the day because they'd be at school. But even if it's in the summer when there isn't school, I can tell almost always who was homeschooled. And do you know what homeschooled kids, a trait that they have that is not unique to them, others have it, but is very rare and very characteristic of homeschooled kids? They're not jaded. The kids who go to regular schools now, they are jaded at such a young age. There's no excitement about life. The sparkle of innocence has been robbed from them. They already know about fellatio in 5th grade. By the way, I'll just tell you, this has nothing to do with gay, lesbian, or bisexual or transsexual. I was against schools having sex ed when it started, and I was a kid. I never understood, why do schools have to teach how to place a condom on a banana, which was the classic example of something in 8th grade. I didn't have sex education in class. Somehow or other, my parents, Orthodox Jews, were capable of telling me how babies were produced. I remember in 5th grade, my father gave me a book called Being Born. Told me all about intercourse and everything else, and that ended the issue. And that was it. I didn't need a course in school on how babies are born. I also knew when I was in college that if I have sexual intercourse with a female, it is possible a baby will come out of that. It is possible. One doesn't need years of high school education to learn that. They said that you can find it. They said with the advent of birth control and sex education, you will see how many unwanted pregnancies go down, the number of unwanted pregnancies. They skyrocketed since sex ed and since birth control. We have more unwanted pregnancies, more abortions than ever. Whatever your view on abortion, it's not even an abortion issue. It's just they said, oh, you will see, we won't even need abortions. Just teach young people about sex and then they won't even need an abortion. Everything they predicted did not come true.
It's well said. All right, next question, and thank you so much. We're going to try to just get to a couple more. We're running out of time, so if you disagree. By the way, you could disagree from the right or the left. It's perfectly fine. So yes, sir.
Hello. Dennis, you outraged many Christians when you said on a podcast a few months ago that you don't believe masturbating to animated pictures of child pornography is wrong, or you don't find it evil. This is fundamentally at odds with Christian teachings about lust, extramarital sex, and sins of the heart. Christ even says in Matthew 5:29 that these sins are enough to lead souls to hell. How can you say Judeo-Christian values are universal to both faiths when something as essential as good and evil are different?
Well, Charlie and I did a whole a podcast on this whole issue. I was asked specifically, is it evil if a man, obviously a sick man, who is attracted to child pornography, watches artificial intelligence created figures, animated figures, and not real children? I was asked, is it evil? I wasn't asked, is it a sin? And my answer was, I didn't think it is evil because no one was affected directly. I used it. I'm sorry?
Just let him finish for a second.
No, it's okay. What is? Oh no, not all sins are evil. Not in any of our religions. To the best of my knowledge, in Catholicism, for example, it is a sin if you are healthy enough to go to Mass and you never go. But I don't know any Catholic that would say you're evil or it is evil if you don't attend Mass. In my religion, I keep kosher. I do not eat pork products or shellfish. But no Jew, the most religious Jew alive, would say it is evil to eat pork. There are sins. All evil is sin, but not every sin is evil. If you want to call masturbation evil, as the Catholic I had the dialogue with did, fine, we have a difference. I use the term evil for rape, torture, murder, and the like. Okay? If masturbation is evil, then I think we have raped the term evil of its moral power. Masturbation may be a sin, and even that is debatable, because there's nothing, not a hint of masturbation being a sin in the Bible. I know the Hebrew Bible, I know the Torah almost by heart in Hebrew. There is not a hint of masturbation being a sin in the Old Testament or in the New Testament. I don't believe the Bible says it is a sin. Do I believe is it a sin? I would ask the context. Wait. So I'll give you a context.
I would have a different opinion for the
record. Right. Okay, so I gave this an example. By the way, let me just say my thinking has changed on the issue of artificial intelligence and child porn. I am now 100% opposed to it. By the way, if all pornography were eradicated, we would have a much better society. I just want to make that clear. That is my position. That was not what I was asked. What I was asked, I assume, was about masturbation. You don't need pornography to masturbate. Men have been masturbating, and some women have, since well before the printed word, let alone since the camera was invented. So I knew a man who is a beautiful human being. His wife got Alzheimer's in her 50s, very young. He took care of her. He bathed her. He washed her. He took care of her every single day for well over a decade. Now, I never asked him if he did, but I did mention this case to the Catholic, Matt Fradd, with whom I had this dialogue, and he said it was an example of evil. If this man masturbated because he could have no sex with his Alzheimer's wife, am I going to say it's a sin? If God thinks that is a sin, you have a different God than I do. I'm as direct as I can be. My God, has common sense, loves human beings, and understands that circumstances determine a lot of things. Is it wrong to lie? Is it a sin to lie? Yes. Were the Germans or the Poles who hid a Jew and lied to Nazis about hiding a Jew, did they commit a sin? Do you know that there are some people who say they did, that they sinned when they lied to the Nazis about hiding Jews? Because to sin is a lie. This is why religion turns people off. When you go around telling people masturbation is a sin and you're committing evil, believe me, you are not bringing people to God, you are alienating people from God.
Let me just say, I'm going to also just reinforce one thing. Dennis, you did come on the show just to make it perfectly clear to say that you do believe that artificial intelligence,
Yes,
child porn is evil.
I
want to make sure that
yes,
your position is clear.
That is exactly my position. And by the way, I admit that first of all, when it was asked to me, I imagined cartoon figures. When I did research on this, because it's not a subject I even talk about, I don't think about it a lot. But when I see the realism of artificial intelligence figures, and that people argue that could in fact lead people, my thought was, if it's a substitute for real children, I can't call it nearly as evil as the use of real children. And I still can't. I mean, nobody can. But it's really bad. And that it's sick, I always assumed. But I am now opposed even to artificial intelligence and the use of children in that. That is correct.
And I would probably sympathize more. I do believe that private thought can be sinful. But I'm not going to get into that with Dennis. It's a theological difference. But we're going to have to get to the next question. But I wanted to make sure Dennis's position was clear. In the Christian belief, private thought, private belief, it's not necessarily as sinful, but there's gradations of sin as well. And it's hotly debated, but I think it's clear Christ said to lust after a woman.
Well, he didn't actually, and there's no reason you would know this. No. In fact, almost no Christian knows this. I did research because I didn't believe Jesus said that. Because Jesus was a Jew, and foremost a Jew, and he was an Orthodox Jew, to use parlance that was not used in those days, but that's what he was. And so it's not normative in Judaism that thinking something is equivalent to doing something. And he was very normative in virtually all of his teachings. So I looked it up. It's been mistranslated from the Greek. He said, if you covet another woman, it is as if you've committed adultery with your heart. I happen to agree with that. Coveting is banned in the Ten Commandments. I know the Ten Commandments by heart in Hebrew. There is a difference between covet and lust. There is no prohibition in the 613 laws of the Torah, where all biblical laws appear. There is no prohibition on lust. There is a prohibition on coveting. Coveting has little to do and nothing to do with lust. You cannot covet your neighbor's spouse, your neighbor's house, or your neighbor's donkey. Most people do not lust after donkeys. And so, let alone houses. Nobody has an erotic attraction to a house.
Can I ask one question, though, Dennis? I mean this. If there's no prohibition on thought, then why does it say, love the Lord your God with all soul, strength, and mind?
Yes. Well, that's, first of all, it's not a prohibition. That's an affirmative commandment.
But doesn't
it's not
it give some sort of a preference?
Yes, by the way, so does
thought
yes, and so does coveting. Coveting is a thought.
Sure.
Yes, but it's very rare. Overwhelmingly in life, I have brought more. This is ironic, given the anti-Semite who spoke earlier. Who did it in the name of Christ, which is really disgrace. You're right, and you did beautifully. I just want to say I have brought more Americans to Christianity than any living Christian. Okay? I know that for a fact. I brought more Jews to Judaism than any living Jew. So I know how to make the case for God and Bible and religion really effectively. And I'm telling you, when we come out with stuff that people just intuitively understand, that doesn't make moral sense. We are not doing God or our Bible any service. There is a prohibition on coveting. Coveting means I want to steal. That's what it means. I want to take away you can't covet a single woman. You can lust after a single woman. You cannot covet a married woman. So that is a way of explaining the difference between covet, and the word he used in the Greek is the same as the 10th commandment, and I totally subscribe to that. Do not covet your neighbor's wife. That is, it is a biblical commandment I try to live by. Okay, so but on the thought issue, I'll just say, and this would be fun to have a public dialogue.
No, we should.
Yes. I am 99% in the camp of only actions are sins. One of the things that I have loved about my religious tradition, as I have understood it, is it does not tell me what to think. It tells me how to act. I'll give a radical example. I don't care if you like Jews or dislike Jews. It is of no consequence to me. I only care how you act toward Jews. Okay? Just an example. I don't care if you like me or dislike me. I care how you treat me. And that is exactly how you feel about everybody else on earth. You don't care what they think. I'm not talking about your parents or your husband or your wife or your kids. But the other 7 billion people on earth, you don't care what they think. You care how they act. And by the way, one final thing. You know how many people have good thoughts and do evil? Yeah, they're called leftists. Oh, I'm not joking. They all think that they are filled with love and compassion, and then they support communists, the greatest butchers of humanity in history. You think the people who gave Stalin secrets of the nuclear weapons, you think they had bad thoughts? They gave this butcher of humanity, Stalin, the atom bomb, out of the goodness of their thought. Thoughts don't mean crap. Actions are everything. Act good, then you'll feel good. Don't wait till you feel good or think good to act good. Everybody's mind wanders everywhere, and it doesn't matter. Everything is action.
We're going to have a Dennis Charlie chat on thoughts and actions, but I'm going to leave it there. Next question. We got to get to the next question. I'm sorry. We got to get to the next question.
I'm sending people to hell. Okay, good. That's right. Okay, I'm sending you to hell if you masturbate. By the way, I'm curious. How many of you think if you masturbate you'll go to hell? Don't be ashamed to raise your hand.
Let's get to the next question.
Okay,
guys.
one. All right, yeah.
Yes. All right. No, final question. Anybody? Yes? No? Yes, super quick.
Real quick, before I ask my question, Dennis, I want to thank you. UC Irvine, you said you're fighting a non-violent civil war. And
wait, I said what? I'm sorry?
You're fighting a non-violent
Oh, it's non-violence. Oh, the only reason I'm asking was because the speakers are always in front of us. Yeah, okay, fine. That's. Yeah.
I thank you by my heart, because if you fail, I don't want to think what happens next. Secondly, I do agree, ASU, UARCs, if you're familiar with UARCs and FFDRC, should be defunded. I don't know what Congress keeps their money all the time.
Got to get to the question. We're already over time.
How do we get STEM back into schools? Like, I think people worship doctorates and master's degrees and think they got to spend 20 years in school to do engineering.
Yep.
Our engineers are aging out. And how do we get like a 20-year-old kid to quit ASU's computer science program, go to a PragerU STEM version, and then start working in 6 months? Because the military can do it. But
short question is parents have to stop putting a preference on a worthless piece of paper called a college diploma. That's the short answer, is that we should care much more about character development, and if you have a specific skill. We have a huge heaviness and a weight on do you have that piece of paper when a 20-year-old could learn to code or get a specific skill and earn 6 figures. Thank you. We got to get to the last one. I'm trying to finish the line. Okay, final question.
All right, Mr. Prager, in 2008, you wrote an article entitled "When a Woman Isn't in the Mood." Me personally, I am a leftist. I don't believe you believe marital rape should be legal, but I'm wondering, when you can have nuanced opinions, such as in this article, why is it not okay for the left to have the same? For example, tonight, multiple times you mentioned men can menstruate, which is dishonest, to say the least, because no leftist actually believes a biological man can menstruate.
The Biden administration does.
That's just
that's really sad. Your
question. Misrepresentation of what the argument.
Why do they say
okay?
People?
All right. So here, this is really good. It's a good one to end on. So as I've said on 40 years of radio, and you can respond to this. I don't need the last word. I always said to people who differed with me, I don't need to win the argument. I think clarity is more important than agreement. It's one of my mottos in life. So let me be clear. You feel that I am misrepresenting the left when I say that they say men menstruate. Right. Okay. One of us is wrong. Okay, it's as simple as that, my friends. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He is ashamed of the left. The New York Times says it. The Washington Post says it. The American Medical Association says it. They don't even use the word for woman any longer for breastfeed. They go chest feeding people. They don't even say women are breastfeeders at the American Medical Association. And you're telling me I'm misrepresenting the left?
Yes, sir. I believe we can both be right.
No, not in this case. No. So I'll tell you what, you would not say men menstruate, correct?
I would not say people with an XY chromosome and a penis.
Okay, all right. So, okay,
Yeah,
all right. So
what is a man?
So here, the fundamental difference.
What is a man?
I'm answering. The fundamental difference between you and I is what we believe a man is, right?
So what is a man?
I believe a man is someone who chooses to express themselves in a masculine manner.
all right. So then,
it's a costume.
Okay, all right. So there's no such thing as a man. Okay.
That's the tell.
Can you? I'm just curious. Can I choose to say I'm black?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because there's societally, it's not okay.
Oh, so truth
about.
depends on what society says. Okay, fair enough.
No, sir. I'm asking about with men specifically what my belief of a man is differs from yours. I'm not saying a man.
Okay,
a person
there's
with
no
a penis
such.
can
Okay,
menstruate.
so let me just say, there's no such thing as my belief about what a man is. Either there's an objective definition to man, or there isn't. The left has destroyed truth. You have bought that. It pains me because I'm sure you're not a bad guy, that you believe that male and female or man and woman are subjective terms based on the feelings of the speaker is a catastrophe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Everybody get your tickets to America Fest. Promo code Live Free. Thank you guys so much and join the Turning Point USA chapter here at ASU.
Thank you.